Good evening, everyone. Hello, it's Julia from the Paper and Ink Boutique, and I'm here for Monday Night Live. We're back, Monday Night Live, and I'm feeling better. I had a bit of a cold, but I am good now. So welcome, everyone. Hello, Carrie. How are you? Hello. Good evening, everyone. So I'm going to flip over to my overhead camera. Let's get started because I have a lot to show you. A lot, okay? Hey, Shelly. I'm just going to bring my camera in and let's flip the camera. There we go. Perfect. Okay. Hello, good evening. Yes, I'm feeling much better. Okay, so tonight we're going to be talking about stencil butters. And I've talked about stencil butters before, but I wanted to use them with these new stencils that we got in last week from TCW, Crafters Workshop. I got one of these stencils back in January, did a class with them with the Crafters Workshop, loved it, ordered in some stencils, and now I need to show you what I love about them. So I have a lot of stencil butters. I don't even have all the colors, but I have a lot of colors, and there's a lot of them. So I'm going to be using some of these tonight. I'm just going to get them out of the way for right now, just so I can make some room. Let me move them off to the side here. Okay, here we go. Okay, so this first stencil. Now, this is called an A2 4-part layered stencil. So what that means is you get one stencil like, let me hold it the right way. Here you go. The stencil comes like this. One stencil. You don't get 4 separate stencils. Hello, everyone. Hi. So if you can see, I don't know if it'll show up, but there are numbers. 1, 2, where's the number on this one? 3 and 4. And there are guides on the outside of each part. So these ones are meant for A2 or smaller cards. And there is a line around the outside so you can see where it lines up. Oh, there's the number showing up. So there's 1, there's 2, there's 3, and 4. Oh, look, my light is actually really handy. So that is one. This one is called Mountain Scene, and we do have it in stock. There we are, Mountain Scene. And I'm going to show you a couple that I've already made. Here's this one here, and I absolutely love it. So there's inks in the background, but I also use stencil butters, stencil butter on this layer, stencil butter for the lake. Isn't that gorgeous? Oh my God, I love it. Here's another one I made, this one using greens. There you go. And stencil butters on there as well. And the birds are also the black stencil butter. Yeah, so there's even a bit of dimension on the birds, which I absolutely love. So that is this stencil here. That one is called Mountain Scene. Love it, and it's gorgeous. Okay, the next one I want to talk about, this one is called Forest Scene. And again, exactly the same as the first one. You get one stencil. You get one stencil, and again, there is a guide following each scene that shows you where the A2 size is, and it's 1, 2, 3, and 4, and that's what this one is here. And let me show you one that I made. There you go. So there is another one that I made. Isn't it gorgeous? Oh my gosh, I love this one. Absolutely love this one. Yeah, that one's gorgeous. So I made that one using the Forest Scene stencil. Forest Scene. And then there was a couple of slimline ones I brought in. But I also want to show you that you don't just have to use it for slimline. So I've got 3 samples of this. Now, we did bring in 2 of these because these 2 actually work really well together. So this one is called Triple Daisies. Triple Daisies is that one. And this one is called Triple Flowers. Triple Flowers. And we have both of these on our website. Okay, so this one I made, here's this card, and I use both stencils did I use both stencils for this one? No, I did not. This one, I only used this one here, this stencil. And it is just like the other ones. It is one stencil sheet, and then you use it 1, 2, and 3. And this one I like because it does give you some sentiments down here to use. So this one was made using just the one stencil, which I think that turned out really great. I love that one. That's fun. I did use the black stencil butter. I think it's called black tie, through the stencil to get the to get the sentiment through there. So there is a bit of dimension there. Love this one. And then this one, which I am also loving, this one I actually used both stencils. Now I used, let me get rid of this. First layer was the outside. The middle layer where you see the pinks was the layer from this one. So you can see they work really well together. They work perfectly well together. Absolutely gorgeous. And then I used it here. Now this is an A2 size card. This is A2. So even though this says slimline, I did make an A2 size card out of it. Yeah, there you go. And so much fun. And again, I use the black tie stencil butter through the words, through the stencil, and there you go. You can see that. And I even use stencil butter on my card base to get that purple on there. But isn't that gorgeous? Oh my gosh, I am loving these stencils so much. Okay, now just for something a little different, excuse me, something just popped up on my screen, so I need to get rid of it there. So just for something a little bit different, I used this stencil. Which one did I use? Oh, I used both of these actually on this layout in my art journal. I did use that here, which I think is absolutely gorgeous. So I used the stencil here with some crackle paste, did some sprays on there, and then all of this ephemera. This is actually from Stamperia Blue Dream Collection. So I think that turned out really nice too. I love that. So just to show you that these don't just have to be used for cards, I did use it in my little art journal as well, which I think turned out really well. So yeah, there you go. Loving it. And I keep getting notifications on my screen. Just give me a minute. Got to get rid of that. So yeah, I also used it in my art journal. So I just wanted to show you that you could use it for other stuff other than just cards. And you could also use this on the back of scrapbook layouts as well. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I am going to show you these ones first before I move on to, actually, no, let's go to the other ones because the stencil butter is going to need a little bit of time. So let's start with this one. We'll start with the A2 mountain scene. And let me bring these back in so you can see them. There you go. So on this actually comes with your stencil, so it actually shows you steps 1, 2, 3, and 4. There are no printed instructions, but it's fairly straightforward. And it does give you what the stencil looks like inside, 1, 2, 3, and 4. So very easy, very foolproof. I'm going to bring in a piece of paper. And if you're wondering what paper I'm using tonight, this is what I'm using. This is the Art Philosophy watercolor paper, cold press. It's really gorgeous paper. It is, I have it in 12 by 12 sheets. We also sell it in 6 by 6, but I just buy the 12 by 12 and I cut it down to 6 by 6. Now you're probably saying, Julia, why are you using that? Sorry, I have to get rid of that light because it's shining right in my eyes and it's bothering me. Why are you using a 12 by 12 paper pad when you're only going to turn it down or cut it down to A2? I just like working in the larger size. That way it gives me some extra space and then I can cut it down to what I want. Okay, so we are going to start with number 1. Now it does have the guides. Yeah, I'm going to get to that, Megan. Hang on, Megan. I'm going to get to that point. Okay, so I'm not going to worry about the guidelines and size here because this is 6 by 6. It doesn't matter. I'm going to be cutting it down. But I am going to be lining up this corner with that corner. That is going to be my guide as long as this side and this side of my stencil is lined up with my paper, then everything else is going to line up. So I am going to line that up here. Now the colors I'm going to use, I'm actually going to recreate this one here with the blues. There. So let me grab my inks, and the ink colors I used are Tumble Glass, and then Stormy Sky, and Uncharted Mariner. Those are my colors, and yes, light to dark, because you're going to go from back to front. Okay, so let me line this up. Again, lining it up. Now, if I wanted, I could use tape, but I'm not going to use tape. Now, on this one, you'll notice on number 1, we've got one mountain range here, and then we have the lake. Now, I'm going to do stencil butter for the lake. So I'm going to ignore that part. We're going to come back to that one in a minute. Okay. So I'm just going to line it up. Sorry, I think my head just bumped the camera. I'm going to grab my brush. I'm going to use one brush for all 3 colors. So I'm going to start with my lightest color, which is, let me bring these down a little bit. Tumble Glass is my first one. Tumble Glass, going to pick that up. Now I am going to tap that off a little bit. I do want this to be light. So I'm actually going to start at the bottom of the range here, the mountain range. And I'm just going to come up, and I'm just going to just very lightly just start blending that in. I want it to be super light. Okay, but I do want it to be a little bit darker along this edge. So I'm going to come back, and I'm just going to come right along the edge of that stencil and then do that. Okay, that's all I'm going to do. It's very light. Look how light that is. Super light, right? Okay, again, we're going to ignore this part. This is the lake part. That's going to be stencil butter. We're going to do that later. Okay, so let me cover up Tumble Glass. I am going to line this up now. Here we are. So lining this up. Perfect. So there's my stencil. It's lined up right along where I just inked. I'm going to open up Stormy Sky. I'm going to use the same brush, exact same brush. I'm going to pick that up. Just going to tap that off a little bit. And I'm going to do the same. I'm going to start along the bottom. And I'm just going to very lightly come in. And I'm a very heavy-handed blender brush user. So this is really a test of patience for me to come in and do this very lightly. And I'm just going to go along that bottom edge a few times. I'm going to go back and forth as it gets darker. And then I'm just going to come along the top just a couple of times. Now, before I take the stencil off, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to lift the corner and I'm going to take a look. Oh, that's actually looking really good. But I do want it to be a little bit darker. Because as you get closer, you want everything to be darker. Everything far away, you want it to be lighter. And then as it gets closer to you, it should be darker. Okay, so again, I'm just going to hold that down. I'm going to peel it back, take a look. Okay, that's looking good to me. So there we are after part 2. So you can see light getting a little bit darker. Excuse me, I dropped my stencil. Trying to get away from me. Okay, so now we've done 1, we've done 2, and now we're going to come down here to 3. Going to cover up Stormy Sky, going to bring in Uncharted Mariner. Okay, going to line that up. These are super easy to line up. I can see it's following exactly where I want it to. Okay, Uncharted Mariner, which is going to be my darkest blue. Let's pick up that, tap that off a little bit. Now this I want to be the darkest, so I don't care so much about coming in and blending lightly. So I'm going to come in and I'm going to try and get this fairly dark. go. Okay, now I need to do this side. Okay, I'm going to come along here again and darken this up just a smidge more. Okay, and there we go. So there we've got our mountains in there. Gorgeous, right? Love it. Now I'm using distress inks. I'm not using oxides. I am using inks. Now I want to come in and I want to make sure this ink is dry. So let me just heat it. Good. Now I'm going to just let me grab a baby wipe. I'm just going to clean the ink off my stencil and my background, obviously, because I was tapping off my inks. I'm just going to give this a quick wipe, get all of that ink off. Perfect. Just going to give this a quick dry, just a easy, gentle wipe down. There we are. Okay, so for the water, let me bring this back in. We're going to go back to stencil 1 because that's what this part is the water. So I'm going to bring that in. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to grab a couple of stencil butters. Now let me just move this over just a smidge. Perfect. So to do this, you are going to want a palette knife. And I'm going to want a couple of colors of stencil butter. Now on this one, this part you see here, that's actually a mix of turquoise, and I used pearl. There we are, pearl white. I used both of those, turquoise and pearl white. So what I did is I took a little bit of turquoise. There we go. And always make sure you cover up your stencil butters ASAP. Just going to clean that off. And I'm going to grab out some of the pearl. Oh, that's way too much. Some of the pearl. There we go. Okay. Now I'm going to use my palette knife. And I'm just going to mix those. I don't want to mix them completely. I just kind of want to get a bit of a marbly look to it, kind of like that. So now I'm going to come over here to my stencil. I'm going to make sure everything is lined up. And what I'm going to do is I am going to put this across here, and now I'm going to drag down. Okay, I'm going to pick up a little bit more and just drag it across that stencil. Perfect. Okay, I'm going to lift that off. There you go there. You can see I've added that water. Look how gorgeous that is. Now, before I add that extra layer where the trees are, we're going to have to let this dry. So we're going to set this aside for a minute, and then we're going to go to forest scene, and then we'll come back, okay? So I'm going to set this aside. We'll set it over there. It's going to be safely set aside. Now, I do recommend cleaning your stencil ASAP. Normally what I would do is I would run to the washroom and I would put this in the sink and I would wash this right away. But I'm not going to do that. I'm going to just wipe this front and back. There we are. Now, what am I going to do with this? I can't waste it. No. So I'm actually going to bring a tag in. I'm going to bring this in, and I am just going to smooth this out on a tag. Because we don't want to waste all of that gorgeous stencil butter. Now, what will I use this for? Well, I might end up using it for a tag. I'll show you later what I use these for when I was doing the initial ones. Perfect. There we go. Don't waste it. There you go. Got it. Okay, let's clean up the mess and move to forest scene. And I'll show you what I did there. That one is really fun. So much fun. There we go. And clean up the palette. Wonderful. Okay. So there we go. Going to set that aside. Going to let that dry. And that's going to be perfect for something else. Set that aside. I'm going to set these aside too. Okay, let's move on to forest scene, and I'll show you the gorgeousness of this one. Oh my Lord, this one is so gorgeous. A2 4-part layered stencil. Kind of the same, kind of different, but let me show you what I did here. Starting off with a new piece of paper, I'm going to line my stencil up. Now this one I used, let me bring in the original here. There we go. So this one, ground espresso is what I use for the deer. I'm going to set that there. And then my colors from lightest to dark. I started with Shabby Shutter, and then I moved into peeled paint, and then I ended with forest moss. Oh, that's appropriate. Oh, that's great. Okay, let me grab, I'm going to use one brush, one color, or one brush for all the greens. Again, going to line this up. So Shabby Shutters. Now, because I used this on a darker green yesterday, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to bring in, just kind of wipe off any of that excess. Oh, that is good. Okay, Shabby Shutters. And again, really light. We want it light, right? Okay, so I'm going to start at the bottom, and I'm just going to go light up to the top. And this is stencil 1. So light. Like incredibly light. Like, look at that. You hardly even see it. Okay, let's move over to number 2. Number 2. And there we go. Just trying to, this one's a little bit harder to line up. Not impossible, just a little bit different. Oh, there we are. Had to find the, there we go. Lining it up. Perfect. Okay. Got it. Okay, now I'm going to move on to the next darker color, Peel Paint. Here we go. And again, I'm going to start at the bottom and work my way up because I want the darker part to be near the bottom, and I want to kind of have it fade out at the top. Now, I'm not going to add any other ink. Now, you do have to have a fairly light hand because there are little pieces here in the stencil that will kind of buckle a little bit. So the lighter your brushing, the lighter your blending, the better. And again, I'm going to do darker along the bottom. And then it's just going to fade out to the top. Just going to lift it up. That's looking good. Perfect. There we are with number 2. I know it looks weird when you're doing it the first couple of times. Okay, now we're going to move on to color number 3. I'm going to line this up again. There we go. Lining everything up. Perfect. Now I'm going to move on to my darkest green, which is Forest Moss. Highly appropriate. And again, I'm going to start at the bottom and work my way up. Now, do you have to do that? No. Another reason why I'm doing it is a lot of these pieces down here, especially the grass, can be kind of jaggedy. So if you're working down, it could be caught in there. So I am working up just to make sure my brush doesn't get caught in any of those little bits. And again, this is my darkest layer. I'm not worrying so much about the deer. Like if I get some green ink in there, I'm not really worried because I'm going to come back and I'm going to put the brown over top. Okay. Oops. I can see all your comments, so go ahead and ask any questions that you may have, but I am loving these stencils for sure. And these are the layering stencils. These are the A2 layered stencils from the Crafters Workshop. I'm working on the forest scene right now. Just want to pick that up. Okay. That's looking good. So now what I want to do is I want to color in the deer. So I'm going to come in with a smaller brush, with a detail blending brush, this one here. I'm going to pick up a little bit of, what is this, ground espresso, and I'm just going to color in the deer. A little bit more precise, so I'm going to take my time with this one, adding a bit more ink, making sure I get it into the legs. There we go. Yes, we do have these in stock. They came in last week, so if you're looking for them, they would be listed under last week's new arrivals under the Crafters Workshop. Or you can search for them by name. This one is called Forest Scene. I don't know if Glenn is watching, but Glenn can probably drop the links for you. But this one is Forest Scene. The first one I did was Mountain Scene. And then I'll tell you the other ones when I get to them. But yes, they are all in stock now. I'm just going back and I'm adding another layer of my forest moss. Just want it to be a little bit darker. So I'm just going back in and adding another layer. Okay, there we go. So let me peel this back. So that is what we have so far. Okay. I know, it's looking so gorgeous. Okay, so before I do my stencil butter on the last layer, what I'm going to do is I am just going to clean up the ink off this stencil. Again, normally what I would do is I would run to the washroom, and we've got where my craft room is, there's a sink right outside in the washroom. And I would go there and I would rinse these off really fast. But I'm not going to run away on you. I'm going to do it right here. Clean up my inks, and then I'm just going to give this a dry. On both sides. There we go. Okay. Bring this back in. I'm going to give this just a quick blast of heat before I do the stencil butters. Okay, so I'm going to use a stencil butter for the last part of the stencil. Do you have to? No. I could easily use an ink. I would use like a really dark brown, something like that. But I'm actually going to use a black like I did here. I'm going to use a black because I want it to look like the layer that's closest to you is shadow. So what I need to do, I'm going to move this over, going to line my stencil up. There we go. You can see one of the parts of the stencil moves, so there is ink there, but it doesn't really matter because I'm going to cover it up with black, here it is, black tie stencil butter. Now, could you use a dark brown? Yes, of course you could use a dark brown. I just like the massive I like the contrast of the black. Okay, so we're going to make sure this is lined up. Now, this is a lot of area to cover in stencil butter. So this one will need some patience. You don't want to rush this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start up here. And I'm just going to start pulling my stencil butter down through my stencil, holding it in place. Now you're like, that's a lot of stencil butter. That's going to be a mess to clean up. Yes, you're absolutely right. And it was a mess when I did it yesterday. But it's going to be gorgeous. Patience. You just need patience. Now, I will warn you, this bottom part will move very easily. So I'm holding it. And this is another reason why I have a bigger piece of paper. This part will be cut off, okay? But it just allows me to just sweep it by and onto paper instead of my work surface. So I'm not worried about it because that part is going to be cut off. And I have everything covered. Let's cover up our stencil butter. Oh, thanks, Glenn. Glenn did post those. Okay. So you want to be careful with peeling this off. So I am just going to lift it and peel it up. Whoa, look at that. Oh my gosh, that is gorgeous. Now, yes, the edge is a little bit messy, but don't worry. This is an A2 size, and I'm going to be cutting up to the edges anyhow. I'm not worried about any of that. I am going to cut it down, and that is exactly what this one looked like before I cut it down. It was messy along the edges, didn't care. I set it aside to dry, and when it was all dry, put it in my trimmer and trimmed everything down. Going to set that aside because that is a lot of black stencil butter that I do not want to get all over me. Okay. So this normally, like I said, what I would do is I would run over to the sink and rinse this out. But I am not going to do that. I'm going to wipe this off and then I will go and wash it after. Just going to get the majority of it off now because I don't want it to dry on my stencil. You do not want to let the stencil butter dry on your stencil. See what I mean? Messy. But if you are going, if you've got a washroom close by, or if you even keep a tray of water beside you, you can throw it in there and it'll stay moist. And then once you're done creating, then you can wipe it off. There we go. Done. And that is the forest scene stencil. I'm going to bring it in one more time so you can see it. So this is going to need some time to dry because of the stencil butter. I could take my heat tool to it if I wanted to bubble it up at all, but I want this one to stay smooth. So I'm going to let it dry on its own, but it will look exactly like this one here. Oh my gosh, isn't that gorgeous? Ugh, love it. Okay, perfect. So I'm going to set this one aside too. Okay, let me bring this one back in. Nope, still wet. I'm gonna have to let it dry a little bit more. So we're gonna set that one aside. Now let's start talking about these. Oh, and these are amazing. I love these. Like I said, I use them on cards and I use them in my art journal. Love them so much. So what I'm going to do is I do have some pieces of paper, and this is the same paper I was using before. I did cut this down to 8 1/4 by 4. Slimline, I believe, is 3 1/2 by 8 1/4. So they're pretty much the right size, but I just cut them down out of a 12 by 12 and I didn't want to waste too much. Set that one aside. So I cut it down close to a slimline, but when I'm done, I will cut it down to a true size and be able to make a card out of it. Okay, so this is the Slimline 3-part layered stencil. And on the sheet that you get, it shows you 1, 2, and 3 and what you get from each step. And this one also has the sentiments on it. So how these work, and again, it does have the guides on it showing you. Oh, I think I have this upside down. Yeah, there we are. Just looking for, do they number these ones? I guess they don't. 1, 2, 3. So this one, now I didn't use any stencil butter on this one, but you could, you totally could. And maybe I will on this one. And I am using the guides on here. And I'm lining it up at the top corners of my piece of paper. Okay, there we are, lining it up. Now I'm going to use Kitsch Flamingo, Festive Berries, Wilted Violet, and yeah, those 3. So let me get them in their places. Kitsch Flamingo, let me move this out of the way. Kitsch Flamingo. I'm going to use one of these, but I'm also going to show you how I'm going to use this waffle flower. This is a shader brush. And this comes in the 4-pack of waffle flower brushes that we have. And I'll show you how I use the shader brush for this one. Okay, coming in with Kitsch Flamingo. This is going to be, excuse me while I make sure that this is lined up. Okay, so I'm going to go in with my first layer. Light pink. Gorgeous. Going to come in with this one. Okay, now we're going to do number 3. Try not to move the stencil. Wonderful. Okay, so that's what I've got. And it does look like I went a little bit off, but that's fine because when I trim it down, I can line everything back up. Okay, so now we're going to come down to part 2. Line this up. There we go. Okay, so what I did on the original, which was, put it too far away from me. You know what? I actually didn't use this one on any of the ones I showed you because that one I did cut up and use somewhere else. So I can't even show you that one. Okay, I'm going to come back and I'm going to use Kitsch Flamingo again. Now you're probably thinking, why would you use the same color again? Just stay with me. Okay, I'm using the exact same color. Kitsch Flamingo for the base, Kitsch Flamingo second color, and then Okay, now I'm going to bring in this shader brush from Waffle Flower. And I'm going to pick up, this is Festive Berries. I'm just going to run along the edge there. And then right along the very edge of this flower, I'm just going to bring it down at the top edge of the petals. Top edge of the petals only. All the way around. Okay, and then I'm going to do the same here for the center. Not going to take as long because it's not as big. Okay, now that I have that done, I'm going to come back in with my big brush and I'm going to blend it out. So now it all blends in together. Okay, again, going to repeat that. Waffle Flower brush, pick that up. Go along my outside edge. I'm just trying to add just a darker bit to the outside of the petals. I love these Waffle Flower brushes. It's called the sampler pack, and you get 4 of each, or you get 1 of each size, and there's 4 different sizes. I love it. And I have been using these with stencils like crazy. Coming in with my big one, blending it together. Again, going to come with this one. We're going to finish this last one off. Okay, there we go. And I'm going to go around the center. Adding that darker pink and blending it again. And there. Oh, isn't that gorgeous? Yeah, I could stop there and be quite happy, but there's more to the stencil. Okay, now we need to move down to this part. So what this is going to do is it's actually going to mask off what we just did and allow us to add a color surrounding what we just did. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to use the Wilted Violet. Here we go. Now this one, I'm using oxides actually for this one. I forgot to mention that. The first 2 stencils, the forest scene and the mountain scene, I used inks. This time I'm using oxides. Don't ask me why I switched. I don't know. Actually, I do. I think I know. The reason why I used oxides is because I was blending ink over ink, and I like the look of the oxides better when doing that. Okay, so again, this is a lot of space to fill. But if you wanted to do a stencil butter, like if you did ink on this one and then a stencil butter here, that would be really cool. I didn't do that, but that would be a great way to add some dimension to here, but I'm just going to use inks. So again, my piece of paper is larger. It is larger than a slimline card, so it will be cut down. Now you do have to be careful because this bottom part can shift fairly easily. So I am trying to hold it down. Okay, almost done. And there you go. Now, I'm not really happy with the inking on the background, but I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to bring in this one. So this is the next one. This one is actually called Triple Daisies. So it is very similar, but I like this detail, and this is part 3 of this one. So if I bring this down, I can then line this up with my previous stenciling. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to do Wilted Violet again, and I am going to darken up over top of the Wilted Violet I just did. So I love that you can have both of these stencils and they can work really well together. Okay, so there you can see that detail there. Isn't that gorgeous? Oh my gosh, it's so pretty. I absolutely love it. So again, like I said, this is bigger than your standard slimline. So I am going to trim it down. Now, what would look really cool with this as another technique? You could do one of these flowers just on another piece of paper, do it maybe just with stencil butters, and then you could pop it up over top of the middle one. How cool would that be? Or stencil them separately on a different piece of paper, just cut out the centers, pop those up. Wouldn't that look cool? So there are different ways of layering these, but just using the stencil itself, just look what you can create. Isn't that gorgeous? I am loving this stencil. Okay, but I'm loving both stencils because they work so well together. Now I'm going to repeat it, but this time I'm going to use the other stencil just so you can see the difference. Okay, so I'm just going to take a piece of paper towel and I'm just going to quickly wipe this ink off just so I don't transfer it anywhere else. Same here, even though I think I'm going to use the same color. And let's give this a quick wipe. Perfect. Okay, let's bring another piece of paper. Wonderful. I'm going to start with this one again. So let me line this up. Lining that up. There we go. Okay, I'm going to start with Kitsch Flamingo again. Kitsch Flamingo. But can you imagine just all of the really different cool color combinations you can do? How cool would that be? Okay, so we're going to do Kitsch Flamingo from this stencil. And this one is called Triple Flowers. So this one is Triple Flowers. Kitsch Flamingo. Very cool. Loving that. Now let's bring in Triple Daisies for the next layer. I'm going to cover that up because now we're going to do a stencil butter and I'm going to use this part. And you can see when I line this up, there we go. And because I can't look straight down at it because my camera is right over my head, I'm just going to make sure everything is lined up. Okay, perfect. That is lined up. So I'm just going to go over just with the same brush that has Kitsch Flamingo on it. Just going to do the middle part. Just a little bit. Now what I want to do, don't move, I'm going to bring in a stencil butter. Let me choose. I'm going to choose Marigold. I like orange and pink together. I don't know. I just do. So let's use Marigold. And Julia will not be using Marigold because Marigold is dry because Julia did not close it. So that's going to be thrown in the garbage. Okay, let's start over. Apricot? No, I don't want apricot. Gamboge? Maybe gamboge. Barn door. Barn door is actually really pretty. Let's use barn door. It's kind of like a pinky red. It's kind of a pinky red color. Let's use that one. Ew, that one's gorgeous. Okay, again, checking my stencil one more time, making sure it hasn't shifted. Loving that. Okay, now for the middle, what I'm going to do, just because I'm feeling kind of saucy, I'm going to grab some gamboge. I'm going to put the gamboge there. So this is a yellow color. People are going to make fun of me because I love saying the word gamboge, gamboge. It just makes me feel so, I don't know, like I know what I'm talking about. I'm going to pick up some gamboge along with the barn door for the middle one. Look at that. Oh my goodness. Look at that. Oh, makes me so happy. Make sure everything is filled in. Just realized some of my stencil is missing. Not anymore, it isn't. Perfect. Okay. Moment of reveal. Nope, missed a spot. Deep breath. Oh, look how beautiful that is. Okay, so from this side it goes barn door, and then I started mixing in a little bit gamboge, and then on this side more gamboge. So this side is a little bit more orange. This side is more, a little bit more the barn door red, but look how gorgeous that is. Oh, that's stunning. Okay, Julia, don't get distracted. Clean up your stencil before it dries and then you cry. This is one of those do as I say, not as I do, because anyone who has ever followed me knows that I am notorious for not cleaning my stencils. And yes, I do cry. I'm going to set that aside so I don't mess it up. Oh, so pretty. Love those colors so much. And we're clear. Lovely. Okay, so let me bring this back in, and just so you can see that. Isn't that gorgeous? Now, I'm going to have to let this dry before I do any more stenciling. But what I would do is I would bring this stencil back in, and I would do this part, and I would also do it with stencil butter. Oh, so cool. But look at that. Stencil butter over inks. Gorgeous. And do you know what? These would be even pretty. You could cut these out. Use one on a card. You could do a whole bunch of these, put them across a scrapbooking page. You could do these in an art journal. I mean, there's just so many ways to use these. Now, let me bring back in this one. Okay, so this one I used two different stencils. I used this one, these 3 and I did 1, 2, and 3. So just put some crackle paste through them, let them dry, 1, 2, 3. And then I use the other stencil, this one here, this part. And I again used crackle paste here and here, just in 2 spots. And then I let them crackle. And then I added some sprays and some inks and some of the ephemera from Blue Dream from Stamperia and did that. Yeah, so that was fun. I did that today because I wanted you to see that it doesn't just have to be cards, but you can also do them on scrapbook pages. You can do them on mixed media layouts. Very versatile. So again, let me bring these in so you can see the similarity between these two. Did them slightly different, but I think it turned out really well. Lovely. Absolutely lovely. So the reason why this one looks different from this one, because you can see this has a white outline. And actually, I didn't show you that. I didn't do the entire stencil because I got distracted by stencil butter. Let me bring this back in. I can't leave you hanging. Okay, so the last stencil I used, this one, the Triple Daisies. Let me do that one step by step, beginning to end, so you can see what it actually looks like from beginning to end. And I'll have to see if Mountain Scene is dry so I can add that last layer of stencil butter. Okay. Layer 1. Kitsch Flamingo. I didn't even add any more ink to my... Let's do this again. Here we go. Kitsch Flamingo. Oh, darn it. It still had some stencil butter on it. Or is that on my hands? Son of a nutcracker. Julia's an hour in and Julia's too messy. Okay. Starting over. Sometimes I make myself laugh. I just want you to see this entire stencil because this one actually has a really cool stencil feature on it that I like. And again, would work really well with the other stencil. I love how these two, you can just mix and match and go back and forth and do different parts and layer them differently. It's just actually really cool. Okay, Kitsch Flamingo. Number 2. So we move this up and it will now mask off what we just stenciled in Kitsch Flamingo. So let me move that up. Perfect. This time we're going to, let's see, what do I want to do? Let's do stencil berries. Where did that come from? We're going to do festive berries in the middle, and then I'm going to use wilted violet coming out to the edge. So let's pick up festive berries. Yeah, son of a nutcracker. That's my go-to when I am in a situation where I can't actually swear. And now you know. When Julia says that, you know. Okay, so I've done festive berries just in the middle. And now I'm going to take wilted violet and I am going to bring it out towards the edge. Okay, now we're going to do it over here. My nail polish. Yeah, that's called stencil butter polish, I guess. I've been working on these. I've been doing different things with these all day. So, I mean, I did make dinner and I did wash my hands. My hands were clean, but yeah, it doesn't take me long. Okay, so I'm coming in and I'm blending the two colors together. I'm going to come back to the one with the Kitsch Flamingo and I'm going to blend over that again, just so I get a good blend of those two colors. pick up and reveal. Ooh. Oh, that's beautiful. Okay, I'm going to cover up wilted violet, so I'm done with that one. And then what this layer does, let's come down here and line everything up again. Does that show up on camera? It does kind of show up a little bit. So you can line these up perfectly. Wonderful. Let's see. Let's do our blender brush, and that moved. So let me figure that out again. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to use this blender brush. This is the shader brush from Waffle Flower. I'm going to pick up some ink. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to start at the edges, and I'm just going to start blending it that way. So it's kind of darker on one edge, and then it's going to go lighter. So then I'm going to bring this in. I'm going to like blend it out. Okay, shader brush, pick up that ink, start at the edge, go in. So I'm trying to create a darker edge at the tips of the petals, just at the tips. I'm going to bring this brush in, and then I'm just going to blend it out. Okay, so you can see it's, well, if I lift it up, you can see it's going to be darker here and then lighter towards the edge. So let's keep going. And there we go. Line it up again. Dark at the edge. Dark at the edge. Brush and blend. Dark at the edge. And I love these blender brushes for this technique. I absolutely do. So I can just press it right in where I want it, and then I take my other blender brush and blend it out. Absolutely fantastic. Okay, shader brush again. Edge. I'm going to do 2 this time. Okay, then I'm going to take this. I'm going to blend it. Blend here. Lovely. Shader brush right at the edge, where I want it the darkest. And let's do this one. And take the big brush and blend it out. And there you go. Now, like I said, this is bigger. This is bigger than a normal slimline, but yes, it can be cut down. But look at how gorgeous that is. Stunning, right? Okay, so here's one I did. This one is the first stencil, and then I used this from the second stencil, but gorgeous. I mean, oh, stunning. Stunning. I need to trim it down so you can see the gorgeousness of it. Like, it's just absolutely stunning. Okay. This one's a bit off on the edge. One. There we are. So that's what that one looks like finished. And then this one, let me trim off the excess so you can see what that looks like. Looks like my stencil was a little bit crooked, so I'm just going to have to make an adjustment. And here we go, along that edge. There we go. And this edge. Now, I could cut this down and have it fit on an A2 size I wanted, but look at how gorgeous that is. So I just need to add a sentiment. How fun would that be? I could bring my stencil back in and I could use one of the sentiments off of here. I could pop a sentiment. I really love using, I love using the picket fence. I mean, look how gorgeous that is. Just popping that up on there. Yeah, a few jewels done. Gorgeous card, stunning. I love the ombre blend of the two colors on the background. I mean, just look how gorgeous that is. So pretty. And don't be freaked out if you see a slim line. Again, do not be freaked out because you can very easily take this and turn it into an A2 size card. You just cut it down. I just cut this down so it fit on my A2 size. And now I used that's all that is. Oh, and I'm back. Oops, I think I lost internet there for a second, but I'm back. Okay, there you go. So it can easily be cut down and made into an A2 size card. And there's one of those stencils there that you can see. I put stencil butter through the thank you there. Okay, now the one I didn't finish that I didn't get to, and I don't know if it's dry enough. Oh, it might be. Okay, let me finish this one off. Okay, so remember this one. This is the one I started with. This is the mountain scene. And so I did the mountains. I did the lake in the stencil butter. You can see that. Look at how gorgeous that is. It looks like our beautiful lakes here that we have in Alberta. Love it. Now the last part, stencil 4, is you line it up here. Oh, helps if you have the stencil the right way. I was so confused with what's going on. Okay, so this is stencil 4. So you can see it's got the birds and it's got your bottom here. Now, to save myself a lot of grief, because I'm using black stencil butter again, I'm just going to use a little bit of tape just to hold this in place for my sanity. There we go. And then we'll finish this one off. And then what I'll do, because I'm going to have to let the stencil butter dry, because if I come back to this one with our deer scene in it, our forest scene, that stencil butter, I can tell just by looking at it, it's still really shiny. That is still wet. I will cut these down and we will put them in the, inspiration group. And I need some black stencil butter. And I'm going to do the birds first. There we go. And then we fill in our trees. And again, the base I'm using is bigger than an A2 size card, so I'm not worried about running over because I will cut this down. There we go. Oh, I will sometimes use it, Barb, and sometimes I'm just in too much of a hurry that I won't use the tape, but for this one, I did want to use it. Okay. So let's peel this up. I'm going to try and be very gentle here because I don't want to muck it out. My stencil was a bit off because I was rushing. But you know what? I can go in and fix that. And in the class that I took with Paper Crafters Workshop, what she did is she wanted to add dimension to her trees. So she actually came in with her palette knife and tapped it and pulled. So it actually gave some texture to the trees, which I thought was really interesting. So yeah, kind of cool that you can add texture. Now I could take my heat tool to it, bubble it up if I wanted to, because I've done that technique before. And you can bubble it, but you can come and just add texture just with your palette knife. Just by tapping it and pulling it up, you can add some really cool texture. So I don't know if you can see that. Oh, there, that shows the texture. Yeah. Oh, they could be snow-capped trees. Could be. But I'm not worried about this because this is bigger than an A2 size. So it's going to have to be cut down anyways. So I'm not too worried about it. All right. And I'm not worried about this stencil because I am almost done and I'm going to run to the washer and clean that off. So yeah, there you go. Okay. But what I wanted to share with you is that these are super fun stencils, amazing ways to use them. They're so much fun. And I know you will like them. If you have these in your stash, if you've already purchased them, these are so much fun, as well as mountain scene and forest scene. Really easy ways that you can create beautiful card backgrounds. That's it for me tonight. Thank you so much for joining me, everyone. I hope you had a good evening. And if you want to look at these or any of our other Monday Night Live videos, you can find them on our YouTube channel under the playlist Monday Night Live. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a great evening. Bye.